Dr. Slaton Live, the brain's body, the ultimate experience. And look, what we're talking about today is human system science in relation to technology. But technology is you. So I've been talking about human system science now for the last 3 to 4 episodes. But I want to make it clear why. Because there's a difference between program and process. And many of us get confused. I'll say many of my students have gotten confused. When I'm talking about program, I'm talking about the physical environments that we live in that become symbolic: home, school, neighborhood, workplace. And I talk about those things in relation to human science because those are your test sites. So as I talk to you about how the brain learns, you test what I'm talking about in relation to home, school, neighborhood, workplace, network. Because when I'm talking about the crisis itself, I'm talking about a person that has sensed and received past damage and doesn't know it, but in the home, they can't move through contact. They make contact, anger, fear, anxiety is emanating forward and backward. Either they're trying to put you in a state of fear or anxiety because they're upset. And so that's a sense path injury that I'm talking through. But you can assess it and understand it and learn how to move through the crisis self. And that's what I talk to you about, because you're moving through program process state. So if I'm a helper and I'm dealing with a young person who's encountering difficulty interacting, then I have to be the processor. I have to allow them to experience me. Because to them, I'm a program state because I'm influential. And so anything I do is perceived as an attempt to influence him or her. So in understanding that, you have to allow them to experience you as a processor, not a programmer, because that means that if they interact with you, you're flexible to receiving it, the experience, and then speaking the truth. Now, because the brain talk in leader the body is what allows them to understand the balance to cool, calm, and collected state you're going to talk to them through. So when I talk about human system science, I'm talking about how do you move from program to process. You experience the program. I just now said it. I experienced that student. And in experiencing that student, there's no he just be like me. He's got to process the experience, him or herself, to be like me. Because I'm processing the experience of them, and then I'm sending forward feed to let him or her realize my interpretation. And they're right there to say, wow, you off or you on. But most times, as you're reading the mind's eye, the body, they're telling you what you need to know about how to talk to their brain. And that's what we're talking about in terms of human science, because human science is self-learning, brain learning. And so when I talk about program, I'm going to say it again. I'm talking about like you got a job and you don't like going to work because it's the same routine day in, day out. And so you're doing things to show your resistance to going there instead of just processing the experience. What I mean by processing the experience, move through the anger, anxiety of what happened, was happening, and continues to happen, so that you began to allow the brain to take the lead. Creativity, entrepreneurship, learning the program allows you to understand how to reset those instruments of your labor that are conducive and beneficial to next level thinking. And the brain takes the lead. Now you're recreating experiences, utilizing those practice places, because it's all going to be related to one of those places: home, school, neighborhood, workplace, engagement. Those are your practice sites. So you use those sites to practice releasing energy, action, feelings into those environments with feedback cycles, understanding you're moving from the physics to the neural physics of self. And you can realize it through your contact with other people and the way you move through your environment. the environments, okay? So human system science is a tool that allows you to understand how to live, learn, think, and respond to become more informed so that you're less angry and upset because you're learning how to live with yourself. Self is the problem. That's the crisis of self. Because when you're upset, who are you hurting? You. Even if you're venting it out on someone else, you're still hurting you. Give us some signs about how do you turn that around. You process that experience of you, that negative physical you, the mind of you. You can see it, look in the mirror, take a picture in a camera, have someone photo you, do a podcast with me. I'll show it to you. It's physical. Your mind is physical and it's static. And you can't change it because it is your identity. And you got to move from that program state. That program state, you're programmed. And then you program yourself in resistance or trying to rebel from the program. Now you are internally mixed up because first, the society offers a training program, and you reject that, and then you develop your own training program against the program itself. Now you are coupled in trouble because you're resisting the physics of self and the environment. And the problem now is a processing disorder. So I'm saying, stop, wait a minute, human system science now, I'm talking about human system science. So yourself, other people, and the environment through human systems research. But the first step, brain, body, sense, learning. And why? Because we want you to understand the physics, the neurophysics, and the neurophysiological aspects of brain, body, sense messaging. So that you begin to make sense of not only what I'm saying, but what you're saying with your brain, body, and sense systems when they are not balanced. And when they're not balanced, you can't stay cool. You're not calm. You can't collect the proper flow of information because you lack focus. Stop, wait a minute. That's what I'm talking about in human system science, is learning your own brain. So as you begin to understand when you learn your brain, it's easy to move from a sense of just your identity, your physics, what you're trained to believe you are, okay, to processing that experience so you realize what you actually are becoming as you become more informed from the breath of life. You're moving the levels of awareness. And you don't want to negate the fact that those are good and bad experiences. You got to process both. You can't just process the good experiences and try to leave the bad experiences behind because you're leaving parts of your personality, your attitude, your character, right? And your actual behavior behind. And what is that? That's the program. And you can't do that. You bring the program with you so that you can stay connected to the outer environment, other people. Otherwise, you're going in the opposite direction and you're isolating, withdrawing. And as you evolve, yeah, you're becoming more, but it's harder because you're not connected to the program. Are you with me? Go back and look at Matrix, the movie, one more time and analytically listen to one of my clips again, and you'll get the picture. It's not about taking a green or blue pill. It's about you understanding that you have a sense of the physical you and a sense of feel that you must connect to the inner you, the neurophysical aspects of you, the chemical, biological aspects of the brain system, the brain's body that you can't see, that I'm showing you in all my different videos. I show you variations of what I'm talking about. On the wall, you see the brain, the child's brain. This is the beginning of understanding your neurological system. It's in your head, but it runs throughout your whole body, right? And then your sense systems make it all happen. And that's what I'm trying to get you to understand, because that's how you break program down and begin to become your natural self as a processor. So you're not just this or that, you are more than that, and you're continuously evolving. And that's what I'm trying to get you to understand, out of program. See? Because you're supposed to be trained, and you're supposed to train yourself, but you're not supposed to get locked into a static state. where you just program, you're not thinking, all you're doing is going through the motions. See? And so the crisis itself is even worse because if you have sense and receive path damage, then how do you learn to process other people's contact interaction when you're always upset with your own state of fear, anxiety, and anger? And can't nobody get next to you because you're always lashing out, aggressive. Okay? Now, I'm not talking about any individual, I'm talking about us as human beings when we have damaged sense path functions, and the sense path just is what allows you to see things, to observe things. And when you observe something, that emotion kicks in, you withdraw, you isolate. Why? Because you don't want to process that energy. You're resistant to changing you, see? And you want to remain the same, right? But you can't remain the same because that's not how we're born. We're born to change and be changed by the experience of self and others and the environment and evolve in the higher levels of functionality. That's what I'm talking about. Removing the anxiety, the pain, hurt, and sadness that you experience when you just don't have the proper information flow, processing techniques in place. So I'm talking to you as Dr. Slaton Live, and I've been talking about this and I've been writing about this, and I'm still fielding more and more questions. Subscribe, first of all, and get access to my new book coming out, Human System Science in the Best Interest of the Child. Now, don't get it twisted. I talk about the breath of life experience that we all go through. It's accessible. I'm writing a book about children because children is where you once were. And if you're in crises, I want you to look at what happened, how it happened, why it happened in the context of the experience of self, the external you, transitioning to understanding the inner you, so you began to problem solve and move beyond what happened was preventing you from allowing other people to love and care for you because you are hurt from the inside to the outside, but you're blocking from the external because you don't want to change, because then you have to do all that brain work, which means move through crisis of self because you're in levels of denial. You don't want to accept the consequences for what you've done to you in misinterpreting how you're supposed to respond. We go through this. This is what we're talking about. When sense and receive path damage, you're not processing the information naturally, okay? Because you're trained and you've trained yourself to do it differently. That means from what you can see and experience externally. I'm saying to you that memory and emotion is an external variable that has to be processed internally into thought and reflection, because thought and reflection is produced by your brain and then forward feed. And so then that memory builds reflection, the capacity to look at what happened and gain awareness to go to the next level as an entrepreneur, a creator, okay, a problem solver, and begin to realize how to master self. No, because when you're in crises, there's levels to this. You can learn how to master how you live inside a home with other people. You can learn how to master how you go to school with other people and succeed at higher levels of functionality because you're beginning to understand self in relation to what it takes for you to process that information, physical and neural information simultaneously. And what you're teaching yourself is how to sense, to feel, to focus, to receive, organize, and express, or receive, process, to respond. And those are real steps in understanding social cognitive events and then social and cognitive, we're talking about internal cognition. Social cognition is different from the social cognitive environment. That just means it's social and it's cognitive external because you can read it, but it has to be processed internally. And that's the social physics, the environmental physics, and the neurophysics. Now, you are processing the experience of the environment. So now where it was influencing yesterday, it's not as influential today because now you have more information processing skills to receive that person that's aggravating you, to receive that environment, that home, that school, that neighborhood that's tripping you up. And now your brain's leaving the body and it's being processed. Now your feedback is slow and methodical, but really at a rapid speed. But we're talking about rapid speed. We're talking about how you learn to understand your own brain and how your brain talks back. Bam! You see? And that's what I've been talking about. And that's why I'm saying subscribe to the show, like the show. I know it's boring to you, but I'm talking about you. Now, if you don't see you inside the show, then by all means, don't watch the show. But now what I'm saying to you is I'm talking about human science. It doesn't matter. Someone in your network has this issue, okay? Self-leadership, right? Need to learn how to help themselves because they're not accepting help from anybody else. Need to learn how to research how they sense and receive the information to begin to become more effective at consequential thinking, realizing what they're doing wrong in the same sense of what they're doing right, and have that balance to be cool, calm, and collected as the brain takes the lead of the body and things begin to work towards resolutions. Now, listen to what I'm saying when I say resolution, because a resolution can be you realizing just how terrible a person you've been, or just how valuable you have developed in these skill sets. But at the same time, you want balance, like that emotion, balance with thought. That thought to balance with reflection, because reflection forward feed. It has the memory in it, it has the thought in it, and it has the emotion in it. See? Because reflection is the collection of your human experiences. See? Because the brain does all that selecting and flowing and external, internal information gathering, and then bam, simultaneously, that release of that new response. It's new because it's always going to be new because your human system and you're gaining insight and great levels of awareness unless you're blocked. And if you're blocked, then you're going back to the crisis itself because you don't get to that extent where you can realize what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong. Because that is in the benefit of experiencing the program your states of mind. And begin to realize how to unblock and unlock your states of mind that are static, predictable, and holding you back from realizing your full potential because you are an information processor by the breath of life. You are an information processor. And that's what I'm talking about, how to learn how to operate your human system more effectively, more efficiently, so that you can reach your potential and then understand how human beings actually evolve. Now let's get back to the child. Because if you can understand what I'm talking to you about, now when you make contact with a kid, what are you trying to do? Give them a sense of feel that they can experience you calm, cool, and collected so their brain is not hurt or injured by your human physics, your states of mind. And if you're aware of what I'm talking about, now you're open and you're using brain talk to reach that kid. And that kid is allowed to talk and you listen and allow that information to flow through you and let your brain talk back to that child's brain and not your states of mind where you're way out there and not looking at the reality of the predicament you're in right now. And the kid could just be talking about eating a carrot and you're like, I don't know why you think you're going to get fat. No, that's program thinking. Where you get that from? No, you got it from the trained you, your fixed state of being. That's what I'm talking about. When we deal with children, we have to be processors and we have to learn how to understand the neurophysiological changes that we're sending that kid through when we jump and give them trained states of being. Because now you're saying, no, you don't need to experience this. I'm going to tell you how to experience it. Okay. And so this kid is now losing sensory organizational skills because you're not allowing them to evolve, not only as information processors, but because they are neurophysical systems first. Your child was a neurophysical system from the embryonic stage. They were just chemical and biological entities. And then they began to develop the physics. But the brain was already evolving. That's what I'm saying, the brain first, not the body. You just can't see this. And that's what I'm trying to get you to understand. That's why I'm talking about the best as a child. That's why you should pick up the book, because I give it to you in detail, but I give it to you in a constructive way, because children have to be able to move through the crisis of self to reduce family decline, school failure, lack of employable skill sets, and then begin to understand how to live in a home, learn in school, pick a neighborhood, and then own these variables. Now we have a new evolving culture and society because children are understanding how to build home, school, neighborhood, workplace networks geographically within the scope or the scale of the economy. So we're talking about economic units. We're talking about building human assets. No, just pick up my literature. I'm not just talking and blowing smoke. I've been working with children for a long time. I've been working with youth for a long time. And this is what I've been teaching them: how to evolve through the program to process the information they need to become competent people in the workforce. We call it workplace leadership. Okay? Child development, workforce leadership. That's what child development is, because they have to be able to take care of themselves to pay for their own development, continued development. This is Dr. Slaton, keeping it real, keeping it real. Don't forget to subscribe, and don't be afraid of human system science, because like I have in the book, I'm breaking it down for you, and I'm telling you, where do you think we come from? No, get away from the race issue. I mean, I know I'm black, but check this out. What are you really? No, look at it scientifically. What are you really? Okay? You are a human system. And how do you function? You function because your brain must be in the lead of your body, so that when you are upset, it's controlled releases of energy, action, and feelings. Now that personality, attitude, character kicks in, but the brain's in the lead of it. See, no. The program says you are your personality. You are your attitude. You are that character. No. When the brain's in the lead of the body, the personality is an evolving state of collectivity, because you're in a self-mastery mode where, go back when we were soldiers, Mel Gibson, and what is he saying to his troops when all them bullets flying all around him? He's saying, cool down, stay calm, collect a sense of where the bullets are coming from. Now we must respond. But what we talking about, the brain, the lead of the body, personality, character, attitude, behavior, responses. Tuning out. Thank you very much. Talk to you later.